people that are declined into alcoholism, and they had a wife that left. They lost their job in the post office, and when you turn up at their house, they're living in complete chaos. Like, the whole house is trashed. There's the toilets full of poop, the bath full of poop, buckets full of poop. You know, things are leaking, things are breaking. You know, there's rubbish everywhere, food all over the place.
Effectively homeless, but just with a roof over your head.
Mate, honestly, and in a very bad shape. And you find quite a lot of people like that are sort of, they've got somewhere to live. And this guy, you know, he was had quite a good job, quite a good life before he descended to that point. And over the years, he called me the Grim Reaper, because I'd sort of say, mate, you're going to lose your job next. And then, you know, he worked at the post office, so he would turn up in the most appalling condition. But, you know, it took him a long time before they actually fired him. You know, years. He was on full pay for years, drinking himself to death and turning up every now and then in a terrible state. I mean, I dropped him off once. He's had one sock on. He had that alcoholic hairdo where it's like gelled up one side like a flock of seagulls was sick. You know, his shirt was about 4 buttons out. You know, his flies were open. He had no underwear on, so you could see his knob. And, you know, his fingers were like yellow down to the knuckle. And his teeth were a terrible state. And, you know, I dropped him off outside the post office. He hid his cans of special brew, drunk the last one shaking, and went in. And I think they would send him home, but they would. So you kind of get them guys that are in homes, but in a terribly dangerous state. I mean, I used to go to the local drug authorities at the time and say, look, this guy needs help. And they would say, well, he misses appointments and he don't turn up for his appointments. So I went and picked him up and took him in there and said, what day is it? He didn't know what day it was. Literally, he didn't know what day or month it was. He knew what year it was. And but I said to him, I said, mate, it's like, you know, you're going to end up living under a bridge. And he was like, oh, I couldn't live under a bridge. I couldn't live under a bridge. But eventually, obviously, he ended up getting evicted for his mortgage. Couldn't pay his mortgage. Once the post office finally dismissed him and cut his income off, he wasn't capable of sorting anything else out, and he couldn't get anywhere for anyone else to really help him. And again, I think the best you could have done was kind of help him stay in the house and help him stay drunk until he died. I mean, he used to set fire to the house quite regularly. You know, he'd read a lot of newspapers and they'd be all around his bed. He was like sleeping in the middle of a bonfire, and, you know, quite often he'd fall asleep with a cigarette and wake up on fire.
Bloody hell.
And stuff like that. And then leave the front door open. People would come in and take advantage of him. And once I turned up, he'd had all his teeth kicked in where someone had beat him up. And then eventually he ended up losing his house and ended up living under a bridge. That's what he called me, the Grim Reaper, because that's kind of where I could see where he was headed, because that's the path that people with that problem go down. And but the truth is, he adapted, and he said he actually felt better under the bridge than he did in his house, because he blamed the council tax for his downfall. He said it was the council tax that caused all this misery in his life. It was obviously the drinking, but he see it as the council tax. And so when he was actually under the bridge and going to all the homeless support, he absolved all responsibility for himself. And all he had to do was sit there drinking all day without any pressure. And he actually said this is the best he felt in years. He would just go to the day centre, get his food. In the summer, you know, he liked to sleep out. He could just sit and drink and smoke, and as long as there was a street light, he could read or something. Or he'd go and get a shower in the day centre, and in the winter he'd go in the night shelter. And he actually seemed more. He said he was more happy. So he was there for like on the street for a few years, and then eventually they put him in a flat, and I asked them in the day centre because I'd stopped working there, how is this guy? And they said, oh, he's fine, he's doing well. We got him a flat. He's living in a flat, and a little while after, I see him walking down the high street, punching himself in the face while he was walking along, talking to himself. But I picked him up, went back to his flat, and it looked very much like his house. It was a death trap. That I thought, how long are they going to let him stay here? And so again, it's like, look, I'm not saying there's not success stories, but the truth is like, I've seen a lot of people that are homeless just put in homes, and then you realise there's a reason why they're homeless. Again, there may be different reasons, but there's the reason why they're homeless. There's a reason for it, and unless we actually find out what the reason is, giving them a home isn't going to solve the problem.